we want to know what it is that you want from the banks. What is it that we can do to help you grow your business? What is it that we can do to make sure that you are able to employ more people? Because I mean, we know right now that the whole point, the whole background to Arab Spring, right, was really this thing about the youth and unemployment. And if we have so many people coming out of school without jobs, I mean, there's no way the government is going to be able to create that jobs, no matter what we say, no matter what promises they make to us. It has to be private sector, it has to be people like you, people who are starting their business, and we also have to tell, or rather show this example to the youth, to say that, you know, you don't actually have to be employed. You can start a business and you can grow a business. So let me just go briefly about, I'm going to try and make this very short. I don't know if that will be possible. Yeah, and quickly, before I start, we actually have a survey, a very brief survey. It's 10 questions. So could you just fill it out?
I don't have it.
But actually, I'm not sure that most people know that, you know, 31% of 31 to 38% of SMEs actually run or managed by women, right? And if you say that you really want to support this, that means you actually have to support specific programs for women. You have to get women, you have to encourage women to start their business. You have to encourage women to grow their business. You have to encourage the small to move on to the medium, and from the medium to move on to the large. And that women also contribute to almost 40% of the workforce, right? And also they're critical consumers. And any group that contributes about 20 trillion in consumer spending is not a group that you can joke with. And this is what we found out globally. In terms of repayment rates, I mean, everybody keeps talking about the risk, right? We've known that in microfinance, women have excellent repayment rates, right? And then overall, we've also found through research that once you invest in a woman, the investment is not just for her, but it's also for her family. She makes sure that her children goes to school. She makes sure that nutrition. She makes sure, honestly, that they also employ more women. For instance, the example you've given now, you're working with about 300 women. So what's the trickle effect down of that? I mean, in terms of even the livelihood of the women, in terms of their children, in terms of their education. What we found in Pakistan is that there are about 1.7 million micro and small SMEs. I've included the micro, I've included the SMEs in the informal sector. This is not restricted only to the formal sector, right? And this actually is estimated to be about 20% of the total micro and small SMEs in Pakistan. So if you say, so you have 20% that are run by women, right? And it's growing, so it's not stagnant, it's growing. So this means that this is a growing population, it's a growing force. However, out of this 1.7 million, only 3% have access to a loan or an overdraft. On the other hand, you have almost, I think about 50%, it's almost equal, the amount of savings that men and women have in the banks. So you have women who are actually giving their money to banks to unlend to men. So it might actually be better for you to keep your money and start a cooperative and lend it to yourself, right? And then we've also found that women really have a strong desire for financial literacy and business management skills. So women do want to support their business, they want to grow their business, and they know that they have barriers, they know those barriers themselves, but unfortunately, they don't know how to go about solving those issues that they have. So what we've looked at, I mean, Pakistan is no different from all other countries. The issues are typically the same. So what is the issue in the business environment? You have a male-dominated banking sector, right? So what happens when you want a huge loan? Anybody not just in Pakistan. I used to be a banker in Nigeria. What happens when somebody wants a loan? So you go and talk to the managing director. Who knows the managing director? It's typically the men. Women don't have the networks. We don't have the business networks. Yes, we have business associations. We have associations. But most of our networks are for social purposes. They're not really for business purposes. I mean, I was thinking about this today and looking at the people who come in. I think by nature we're typically shy. I mean, I am shy, even though it doesn't seem like that, but I'm actually very shy. When people come in, when a man comes in, the first thing he does, he talks about his business, he introduces his business. He's actually making a pitch all the time, right? Women, on the other hand, oh yes, we do talk about our business, but there's no interest to say, okay, what can we do together? What is it that, how can I benefit from this business and vice versa? So we sort of operate differently, and we have to take that into cognizance. That's why a man and a woman will start a business at the same time, and 5 years later, the man's business has grown. He knows he goes to the clubs. He goes to the clubs purely for business reasons. Women go to the clubs for networking reasons, for more social reasons, not actually networking. And then I talked about data. I mean, we're talking to banks who only understand the bottom line. I can't really tell you how much, I mean, I have an idea of the number of SMEs that are owned by women, in Pakistan now. But the only reason why we have that idea is because we just did a study like a year ago. Prior to this time, there was no way we could convince banks that this was actually a viable sector that they could look at, right? And if banks don't have information about this, there's no way they're going to invest in it. Well, I mean, I think most of these things that are here are pretty obvious. I mean, we've talked about, human capital, lack of training, and lack of experience with banks. And she was telling me, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name again. She was just giving me an example of how, when she started, how it was very difficult, even for her to go to the banks, and how it was difficult as well for the banks because they were not used to dealing with women. And I'm not sure that it has changed now. I don't know.
You see, the issues, the same issues as we are discussing here, all male-dominated banks, difficult to go and deal with them. And there is that mental barrier there. They don't consider you much. And that cultural thing, the social thing is there. But when the first women bank came in, I don't know how many of you have dealt with that bank, but when it came in 19, I don't remember, 90 or 92, I was one of the first customers, first client who went there and availed their finance. And I'm telling you, even they were struggling as women. Yes, I promise you, I could see them. The president was so good. The access to the president was great. I mean, I remember walking into that branch, spoke to them twice. They took me directly to the president's room. Miss Akram Khatun was there, and they were actually welcoming women. And the access to finance was there, but you could see them struggling with the bank, with the structures, and which showed that there was a lack of financial training on the part where I think we need to be educated, we need to get more, aware of more of these financial things. But access to First Women Bank was much easier because they were made for just women financing. They were not financing men only. Even males who wanted finance had to show their wives as directors or active participants, and that was also happening. So, and then we had something like this, a roundtable conference and a discussion at that time, and there were all kinds of their customers, clients, who were making from party slims and chili chips to small enterprises to medium, all present there. And the problem there highlighted was that the women needed more financial training. They needed more of, the banks need to provide them more as advisory capacity also.
Let me just quickly go through this and then we'll break into sessions.
But I must add that First Women Bank has actually contributed to growth of women entrepreneurs, especially in the small and the medium sector.
But the problem, this is my own personal view, is that the problem is when you create a women's bank, right? Because how many banks, how many people can we reach out to?
That's the problem.
So that's the thing. I think women's access to finance has to be mainstreamed into the
main banking system.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's always going to be, okay, this is for women, right? And I don't think that anything that is kept separate on its own, it never has the capacity. It's not sustainable. It never has the capacity to grow.
They had a problem doing scalable business there, and they were financing then companies which had women directors, You know, it was like more of a window dressing at the end of the day.
If we are talking about mainstreaming, so First Women Bank was not was a good step, I would say, in the kind of scenario that we were living in 90s. Exactly, it was established in 1990, and since I worked with them very closely as a consultant for 7 years at least, so I do know in and out. But she has really explained that already. But my question to you was, in your slide you said restriction on female title to property leading to lack of collateral. You mean ownership? You mean ownership by this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what we found out is that
ownership I do understand quite a bit, but the way it's been described, I thought maybe you are bringing something else in discussion.
Well, which is what we want to look at. Are there collateral options? I mean, what are the collateral options if a woman doesn't have land, but like someone was telling me she has lots of jewelry? Isn't that an option that the banks could look at? So those are the kind of things we want to be able to find out.
That was the problem, because I remember when we were discussing it there, the capital seed of building mostly for small and medium was coming from their personal belongings or jewelry. None of them had any substantial land or something to give as collateral. That was one of the major problems. And how much do you think that can be to finance a
growing business?
For a growing business, exactly.
I can share with you stories of thousands, not at personal level, because they do not like to just give their personal jewelry also as collateral. They think it's their personal thing. But please, you go back.
Let me just quickly go through this, and then do you want to say something?
Yes, I do. You know, in a country which has 52% population comprising women, I think that we have a lot of ceilings to break through, and one of them is this one. I am in the media for the last 32 years, and I feel that the media should be used to empower women. Through the media, we should disseminate this kind of information to women, and they should be able to stand up and say, okay, I'm also eligible for these kind of facilities that my male counterpart is. Grameen Bank and Bangladesh has proved that women make better partners in business than anybody else. And maybe we need to adapt or look into that principle. But more than anything else, I think our social barriers should be broken through proper messages through the media. Because I'm in the media, I feel there is too little being done. Women don't know their rights, they don't know how the banking system works, they don't know what they can do. I think we should dedicate this year to them at least.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is that I think it works both ways. It works both ways, right? The women, yes, as much as the media has to do its work, the women also have to do their work. I mean, if you look at women who even have MBAs, they still are timid, approaching banks. So if a woman who has an MBA is uncomfortable about going to a bank, what happens to a woman who is illiterate? So there are two things. I mean, we have to improve. I mean, you can only give what you have. We have to also improve our own understanding of how the business.
Exactly.
How business runs.
I know, but this social barrier is something that's been created over thousands of years, and I think that women are now coming into their own. And if they are held up as examples, if they have examples in the media about successful women and how they did it, it'll encourage other women to come through.
Yeah, but how many women are also willing to be used as successful examples? I mean, it's a chicken and egg thing. So it's not. I don't think that's ever going to change, right? And I totally agree with you. I take with you. But I think the thing about the social barriers, even when you go to the states that we always tout as being the most developed, there are also social barriers for women as well. But a lot of times, the social barriers, I think, a lot of time actually stems with us, right? Even to go to the bank, sometimes to collect the money.
Exactly, I agree with you too, but women do not know these kind of facilities exist for them. They should be told. Like, I think the Women's Bank, fine, it's there, but it didn't do a very good job. And mainstream banks should also make it a point. We should, because we are 52% of the population, we need to have the message coming through that we have money available for us as well.
Okay, let me just quickly
I just want to interrupt one last point. I think a lot has to do, when you talk about breaking social barriers, a lot has to do with changing the stereotype. And what's happened here in our kind of culture is that our male counterparts have not really felt happy showcasing our skill set. So it's traditionally been the fathers, the husbands, the brothers, or etc. Would rather talk about how beautiful their female counterparts were than how intelligent or what efficient businesses they were running. And since old habits die hard, while that has started changing in a certain strata, but not